Advanced Principles Podcast, or app, was created to be an outlet for like-minded individuals to share in the broader conversations on leadership, retail market updates, and incredible personal success stories. On app, you will hear a collection of stories from the titans of the retail industry, as well as thought and practice leaders covering the spectrum of the economy. Please click the subscribe button and look for the newest episodes to be released. So many great things, I think, to help advance the industry, advance the customer journey.
They teach you the process behind sales, right?
But not everyone leaves for a startup.
It's been a lot of fun, even when it was less fun, it was still fun, you know?
Nick Gerlach is the Vice President of Dealer Relations at CarOffer. In his role, Nick is responsible for transaction and revenue growth and oversees account management, vehicle fulfillment, buying matrix operations, and the dealer consumer product. Nick is an original member of the CarOffer executive team and has played a critical role in determining product direction, organizational design, hiring strategy, and driving dealer engagement. Prior to joining CarOffer, Nick held previous roles as Director of Sales and Director of Finance for Sewell Automotive Companies, where he oversaw sales operations, inventory acquisition and management, and revenue growth for a world-class automotive retail operation. Nick earned a finance degree from Southern Methodist University's Cox School of Business, as well as an economics degree from Southern Methodist University's Dedman College. All right, Nick, well, that's certainly an impressive bio. I'm really excited to unpack it, get to know a little bit more about you and a lot more about the CarOffer story. You guys have been all the rage in the industry the last couple of years since you unveiled. And so I'm excited to get into it. Thanks again for being a guest on app here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I always love asking people that have any connection to the retail industry, because it's not an industry most of us grow up desiring to get into.
Right.
You don't have, third grade school where you say, hey, I want to sell cars when I grow up. So how'd you get into the car business?
That's a good question. I went to school here in Dallas at SMU here in Dallas. And if you would have asked me probably at 21 what I wanted to be an investment banker. And so I thought that was going to be the next gig for me. But I had done an internship for Carl Sewell, actually, at Sewell Automotive Companies in Dallas, and spent a summer working at their Cadillac store, which is kind of their flagship original store, helping write service and helping sell cars as a sales assistant. And so, one thing led to another. I graduated. I didn't become an investment banker, but I wanted to do something where I could make some money and all that. So one thing led to another. Got in touch with these guys, and the rest was history. So started working at their Lexus store in Dallas, which is now their largest store.
Wow.
And moved up the organization that way.
That's very cool. So it's odd, but when I was early in my retail career back in the mid to late 90s, I was aware of Sewell just because of the book, Customers for Life.
Yep.
Such a prominent name in our industry, and they've done so many great things, I think, to help advance the industry, advance the customer journey. And that had to be an incredible experience for you to work for an organization like that really put the customer first. And from what I understand, and everyone else that I've had conversations with, they pour the same amount of intention into their associates. So what was like their developmental aspect? And I know you wore several hats while you were there. What was that developmental path look like for you?
Oh my gosh. So that organization, people could use that organization as one to build their HR function out. I think they do just really an incredible job, not only of selecting the right people, getting the right people on board, being very intentional about the recruiting process, but then also once you get the right people on board, teaching them, how to do the job and do it well. So I would say, it starts in a couple areas. Really, one of the things that they do extraordinarily well is getting the right people. And so they hire, I would say, more for character, more for personal attributes, traits, et cetera. They do some really cool testing and all kinds of stuff to see if you're a good culture fit as well, among other things. And so once they, as a foundation, have figured that out, they're then going to, they bring you into the organization, but it doesn't stop there. They really invest a ton in you as a person. And it's a long road, right? Their vision is not that you see this as a job, that you do it for 6 months, a year, and then move on to the next thing, like some people do in the car business. But they really look at it like, we want you here 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they've got the track record to prove it. So really long tenures within that organization. Excellent training. One of the things about the training that I think is so phenomenal is they teach you the process behind sales, right? And then they not only teach you that, it's obviously custom to their business, of course, but they then reinforce it along the way. There's constant, check-ins and things like that, different sorts of training and investment in you as a person. I think they truly believe, if you were to ask Carl and Jacqueline, who now run the company along with their father, I think that they believe if you invest in the person, then the company also stands to gain as well. And so, really great organization. Couldn't say greater things about that company.
That's fantastic. Yeah. The greatest return on investment's always into the people.
Yes.
They're going to get you the greatest bang for the buck. No questions asked. It's money well spent in every regard. And certainly the leadership tree throughout our industry that has some connection to Sewell is deep and it's broad. And I think at this point, it probably touches every facet of our industry.
Just about, it does.
Yeah. So while you were there, what was your favorite role? What did you enjoy the most while you were at your tenure there?
Yeah, that's good. Probably the sales director role. So I was the sales director at the Lexus store, which is a very large store. We did between new and used car, new and used sales, I should say, about 9,000 cars a year.
Wow.
Just a ton of volume pumping through that store. The new car department did 5,000, and then I know they were the largest CPO Lexus dealer in the country, at least at that time.
Wow.
I'm not sure today. So that was a fun job. Because it's every day matters, right? You go in, you rally the troops. Saturday's your game day. It was a lot of fun, and it was hard. It required me. I managed inventory. I dealt with managing the store, all that. It was very, very difficult, and was ultimately responsible for growing the revenue at that organization, and making sure that department was profitable. So that was my favorite job. Although I will tell you, it's hard to find a bad job on the sales side if you're a salesperson, or if you're naturally inclined that way, because it's just fun. Selling cars is fun if you're that way, meaning your personality is built for it. So it's really hard to find a bad one, I would say.
Yeah. Great perspective. So after a long and very successful run there, getting elevated within a very prominent organization, you made the decision to leave the retail world, which a lot of people do eventually, whether it's the hours, the structure, whatever it is. A lot of people leave and jump to a supplier side of the industry, whether that's a manufacturer, product administrator, technology provider. But not everyone leaves for a startup. That kind of has a new spin on an old way of doing something. So what was that decision process like? Obviously, very stable career. Now we're looking at a startup. What were those inner conversations that you had with yourself like?
Oh my gosh, it was a lot of sleepless nights. It was painful. This thing, meaning CarOffer, made so much sense, and which is why I even was looking at it in the first place. I almost couldn't see it not working. I was trying to convince myself that there's something that wasn't going to work, but I couldn't find that. I think that was really what drew me towards it. That organization, my prior company, that was family. It really was. And when you spend that long working with a group of people and achieve what we achieved, it's hard for it not to become like so it was tough to leave. But when I saw the vision, and it was on a PowerPoint slide, when I was shown CarOffer, when I saw the vision from Bruce for what this could be, it's hard to really look away. You know what I mean? You just want to be a part of it. And so, there's a couple sleepless nights in there. There was obviously a great opportunity, though we couldn't quite see how exactly it was going to pan out yet. But ultimately, I made the decision just to leave, because like a lot of great things in life, if you don't take on the risk, then you won't accomplish anything truly special, right? And so we jumped and there were scary moments for sure.
Yeah,
There were
yeah,
times, but it was ultimately great. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, even when it was less fun, it was still fun, you know?
yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. And certainly, Bruce has a track record of success.
Yes.
I think everything that he has touched has worked out incredibly well for everyone involved. So there's a little bit of a comfort in that, but certainly still a new idea, a new concept, standalone entity moving forward. So kudos to you for taking that risk. A lot of people cower away from it and probably wait until it's up and running and there's positive revenue and it's much more than just a PowerPoint. There's actually a software platform and a portal and HR department and everything like that. So
Right.
kudos to you for doing that. So you come on board and now you fast forward the 2.5 years or whatever it's been. It has been a warp speed
Oh my
adventure
gosh.
for you guys at CarOffer. We've loved doing business with you. We've loved having the platform to offer the additional value to our dealers. But you not just did a startup, but you did a startup that absolutely blew up from day one, and there's been incredible demand. There was a global pandemic, if I'm remembering correctly,
Yeah, that was full of scary.
which caused immense supply chain issues, which created this need for inventory greater than any time during my career. And oh, by the way, you moved offices and you completed a huge transaction in the industry. So not just one thing, but 5 big events going on. What has that ride been like?
Oh, it's been a wild ride. I mean, absolutely wild. It's hard to even like we could write a book. It's sometimes we sit and it's funny. You have guys join the organization, guys and gals within like the last 6 months, and we already have these old war stories, right? Where we're talking about like, oh, I remember when we started. It was only 2.5 years ago, and we're already talking about old war stories from when we started this company. It was really really unlike anything I could have ever imagined. I saw what this could be, meaning it could be special. I knew that, which is why I left for sure. I knew what Bruce was capable of. Bruce had come in and out of the dealerships when I was on that side of the business when he was building prior products. So I knew what he was about and what he was capable of. But to see it actually happen is different. And also to understand the pains and the challenges and some of the things you run into when you build a startup from the ground up. It's an experience that I wouldn't trade for the world. I think that it's been really, really timely. And what I think probably the most gratifying thing is not just to build something from nothing, but the fact that I feel like we're really changing an industry is pretty cool. There's not a whole lot of companies that can say you really are shifting this part of the business, and I feel like we're doing that. So
Yeah.
It's been neat.
Yeah, yeah. The term disruptor gets thrown around way too often. I mean, the last several years, it's just disruptor, disruptor, disruptor. If you work on a Tuesday, you're all of a sudden a disruptor. And I really do think that there is some level of positive disruption that you all are creating. I think the marketplace dynamics of really opening up a nationwide platform to acquire or wholesale inventory through at the touch of a button, and even more automated than that, you don't even have to touch the button. Is pretty phenomenal. So I do think that there's a level of disruption to it, but in a very positive way. And you're just continually adding value along the way. So it's been fun to see from this aspect of it. Now, you certainly haven't just been a passenger in all of this. You were early on the executive team and you were guiding several of the decisions along the way, from my understanding. And how much of what you learned at Sewell and kind of that HR playbook that you saw in the associate development have you incorporated in your day-to-day strategy over the last 2.5 years at CarOffer?
Oh, a ton of it. We knew, from very early on, my portion of the business that I oversee is really the side that generates the revenue, right? And so it's the side that drives transactions. And so, coming from past experiences and just general philosophy towards business, I wanted everyone to have their business within our business, meaning in parallel incentives, the whole thing. So that was very, very important for me to hire entrepreneurial people that want to grow something, that want to be a part of something, but then also ultimately want to, as the company performs well, so do they. And so we were able to achieve that. It's easy to say, is what I would say, when you're doing it on a whiteboard early on, going like, hey, this is going to be our our incentive structure, and here's how we're gonna pay people, and here's what we're gonna, what we're gonna call them, and it changes 15 times, but then all of a sudden it clicks, right? It works, and then you've got these advocates running around with CarOffer shirts on, and they're bleeding green, and so it's really been fun from that perspective. So that was a huge part of it. Another piece was I wanted to make sure that the people we brought on were extremely high caliber. And so, we're very intentional here about not only, bringing on good people, but then once we do get them on board, making sure that we're giving them every possible chance to be successful. If we like somebody enough to hire them day one, right? We saw something. We need to make sure that we're doing our part as a leadership team to giving them all the resources that they possibly can to be successful and to find fulfillment and all those things that CarOffer. And one of the things I'm probably most proud of is our turnover rate is incredibly low, especially for a startup. And so people are finding this and they're finding careers here, and we're seeing advancement. And that's, I think, the sign of a business that's got a lot more growth ahead of it. So, and it is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah, a lot of legs and a lot of runway to go on. There's no question, especially when those early adopters and kind of those early advocates for the company, like you said, bleeding green, are the ones 5, 10, 15 years from now leading large teams and moving the initiatives forward beyond what Bruce and you had initially seen and started down that path on. That's pretty exceptional, and it's rare, especially in today's environment, as you know.
It is. It's very rare. But we're already seeing guys that are leading, smaller teams within the organization and are doing big chunks of business that, a couple guys that were with us day one that started as account managers and have grown to big roles, and which is really, really exciting. It's the type of story you want to tell about your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very cool. And then a transaction occurs with Car Gurus. And that certainly sent some shockwaves throughout the industry. It seems like a match made in heaven, kind of after everything is shaken out and everything. How is that going, and how has that really changed the CarOffer world, if at all?
It's going really, really well. Those are great people. I mean, that is a tremendous organization that we were able to align ourselves with. And we probably didn't know how great they were until we started working with them. So their culture very much fits our culture, which I think is important when two companies merge like they did with ours. And they are really all about, and from the leadership team down, they're all about helping facilitate our growth. So they've given us resources that we didn't previously have, excuse me. That transaction alone also helped. We knew what we had. We saw the growth that we felt the growth, I should say, early on. We knew we had something special, but we were still trying to get our name out to dealers. And in fact, we still are doing that to this day. There are a lot of dealers that don't know who CarOffer is. And so, that all of a sudden gave us some instant recognition that we didn't, oh, hey, CarOffer, I heard about these guys. This is the deal that Car Gurus bought. Okay, maybe I need to check it out. We did have a lot of that happened as a result. And so I don't know if legitimacy is the word, because I think we had a legitimate, good growing business, but it definitely put us on the map with some people that weren't paying attention to us previous to that.
Yeah. Add a little fuel to the rocket ship.
Yeah. And they give us access to things. I mean, with their marketing reach and cargurus.com and their access to the consumer, that's really the partnership there. You talk about synergies that can exist between two companies. There are very few companies that can do what we're going to do on this, or what we are doing, I should say.
And those associates that you talked about that joined day one as account managers and now are leading teams, they've got to be excited about the upward mobility that transaction now provides, because that's a whole new level of scale that's coming down the pipeline for them.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at the team and it's already grown and multiplied, and that's fantastic. I mean, there's a lot of it left to go. There's a lot of growth left. So it's really exciting for everyone involved.
A big thanks to Nick for sharing with us a little bit about his journey in the beginning of CarOffer and all those opportunities it created for so many people. Do not forget to subscribe, because next week we will be finishing off our conversation with Nick, You can find App on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and our website.